Hi everyone, and welcome to this special edition of the Nightly News. I'm your host, Cole Morehead. Let's get right into our first story. The rising costs of goods are affecting Americans of all ages nationwide. But how is it affecting college students? I interviewed Furman faculty and students for more insight. The COVID-19 pandemic may be a distant memory, but its effects from its inflation are still being felt to this day. Inflation between March 2020 and March 2024 is 20.68%, meaning that $1 then is worth $1.21 today. As students, we have limited budgets, and inflation means we can only get about 83% of what other college students could buy pre-pandemic. Is this a failure of America in general, or are there greater factors at play? Furman student Chloe Tribal has some thoughts about the effects of inflation on her budget.
So yes, I would say unfortunately, I do know I'm spending more money shopping at Publix, especially with inflation over the years and the budget that I have for groceries. However, at the same time, I'm willing to spend that extra money because it does put me in a safer environment. It's a little cleaner, the staff are more helpful. Even though I do know it's more expensive, overall I think it's an overall better experience and I feel safer. And for me, that is the most important part, especially since I go shopping after 5 p.m. and when school's over and when extracurriculars are over and my job's over, I think it's just the best option.
However, this intense inflation is not limited to just food. Students are also feeling the burn at the pump too.
So yes, it does affect me with the inflation because it's almost, I'd say, $1 more for gas that I'm getting compared to what I was getting before 2020. Like in 2019, like for low gas, I typically get like $2.30, and now for low, it's $3.40 essentially, which is quite crazy in my opinion.
According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, Americans are paying approximately $1 more for gas than they were in March 2020. What's the cause for all this gas inflation? I sat down with economics professor Kelsey Hample for more ideas on what this could be.
Consumers are demanding more stuff, that pushes up the prices. Suppliers are having trouble to produce all of their goods. They're having trouble finding all of the available inputs. That's pushing up price. And then the third one is government spending. Absolutely. This was a big part of the story, especially coming out of COVID. We spent about $5 trillion in government spending, and that probably has caused a lot of inflation. If you find two economists, you have probably found two different points of view on something. But with respect to that $5 trillion in spending, a lot of economists are in agreement that that was probably too much. If you ask how much too much, that's where the agreement tends to end. But that big increase in government spending also definitely contributed to inflation.
Looking to avoid costly grocery bills like this? The Nightly News has you covered. The first mistake that budget-conscious students make is shopping at Publix. Instead, they should be shopping here. While it may not look as pretty on the inside, price tags are certainly more attractive. In fact, this cart of college essentials, a case of beer, some Oreos, and some Doritos would ring up for $7.37 less at Publix. To save even more money, opt for the store brand at Publix or Walmart to pay even less. Lastly, to save money on gas, join loyalty programs of different filling stations to take anywhere from 10 to 40 cents off per gallon on most fill-ups. However, the best way to combat inflation is to go to the polls this November and vote for who you think will help you live most affordably over the next 4 years. Reporting for the Nightly News, I'm Cole Morehead. The history of Furman is unveiling before our eyes as a new task force begins. Our own Jada Walker has
feel?
That's the question. I don't know where we got it, who was living here before we got here. I'm not sure.
And that curiosity allowed a Furman professor to uncover a restricted deed that sparked a movement for a new project, the placement project.
A placement project is necessary. I think we need to have figures on campus, have places on campus that reflect Furman's values.
The placement project is a task force that will dig up the truth on Furman's history and how we got the land here.
Just faculty and current students that are concerned. It is prospective students that don't even know that is the first person they're taking a selfie with or the first person they're interacting with.
This is because Alistair believed in segregation and voted against allowing Black students to come to Furman. Due to this, the task force consists of people putting a puzzle together to find out the what, who, and why of Furman we know now.
And we are just in everyone's different ways, from different angles, we are looking for what we can find.
This placement project is similar to the Seeking Abraham project that allowed Furman to right some of their wrongs.
You should think of the advancements that Furman is making to be a more inclusive community and have that sense of belonging for everyone.
The Furman Placement Project is set to launch this summer, and the truth about this land will be uncovered soon. Reporting for Nightly News, Jada Walker.
Thanks, Jada. Now, I'm going to highlight some of the strongest people in our communities, working mothers. They can do anything, from teachers to lawyers to even running a farm.
I see so many friends who struggle because their careers are really engaging, and yet they still have the heavy lift at home and with childcare.
Brittany Arsenega is a lawyer working at a kids' snack and beverage company, Good to Grow, and a small farm owner who has 4 children.
It was the summer before law school. Mike and I were dating, and I found out I was pregnant. And it was like, oh, shit. Yeah, we didn't know we were going to stay together. I hadn't even really decided if I wanted kids.
But 5 to 8 times more likely to have their employment affected by caregiver responsibilities.
There's interesting research on this, but there's some understanding that employers like men who have families because it suggests stability, but there's some indication that perhaps employers look at women with children and think, oh, they're distracted, they're taking care of their families too, they're not working as hard, and they're not valued as much.
Dr. Liz Smith has spent her entire career researching and educating students about women in politics.
It used to be not uncommon for employers to ask women when they were hiring if you were planning on having children, and then presumably they wouldn't hire you if that was the answer was yes, or otherwise they would not have been asking the question.
It wasn't until 1978 that the Pregnancy Discrimination Act that prohibits discrimination against pregnant women or women intending to have children was signed into law. Before this, women could be not hired or fired just for wanting to have kids. Luckily for Brittany, she didn't have to give up her career in any way because her husband Mike took the role of the primary caretaker.
That was a critical piece in our relationship working, is that he was at the time and still has been willing to prioritize my career over his own.
I think there's a higher expectation among young women and among young men that family responsibilities are everyone's responsibility.
This situation seems ideal for a career-driven woman, but that doesn't mean it's without its challenges.
It's really, really hard on your body physically, carrying the twins. And they were big babies, and I went full term, so I was just massive, and everything was swollen, and I had to work from a recliner with my feet up because I couldn't move.
Just some things about being pregnant that should be accommodated, right? I mean, that's just an additional complication. Things are a little bit harder. You're really tired usually when you're pregnant at certain points in the pregnancy. You have more doctor's appointments. It takes time, honestly, to express your milk. It was just recently, right? Like 2010. just put in legislation protections for breastfeeding mothers, that they had to be given breaks and space to express their milk.
And on top of all of these physical complications, there's a lot of emotional stress that comes with being a working mother.
It's hard feeling like I'm not ever meeting the really high standards that I set for myself in either motherhood or my career. Because no matter what you do, you're giving up something. All sorts of things that I have not done with the kids because I'm working. And then I'm like, feeling bad that I didn't go do the volunteer thing at school. Like, I'm never the one chaperoning for the field trip, for example.
As Brittany has settled into her career, she has had to learn to say no in order to miss less of those important moments with her family.
I'm starting to be like, you know what, no, my time is extremely precious. My husband and my kids deserve, they sort of have the first right on my time, not whoever in the community wants it.
Brittany has worked hard to reach this point in her career where she gets to prioritize her family and even embark on a new adventure with them.
I bought a farm in 2020, and as this, passion side interest, I want to have farm animals. I want to try and grow vegetables. I want space where my kids can be free and run around.
Brittany couldn't have known when her first son was born where her life would be one day. And that can often be a scary thing. But with a good partnership, we live in a world where a mother can do it all.
I think what happens when you have two partners that are both super engaged in their work, it often falls still to the woman to do the majority of the childcare and the homework. But it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. And Brittany is proof of that as a lawyer, mother, and farm owner. But there are always improvements our society can continue to make to ensure women and mothers are welcome in the workplace. So go to your local government and politicians so we can make sure to see more and more stories like Brittany's.
Next up, Disha will tell us about some more strong women. Women in STEM.
Thanks, Marissa. Now I'm going to talk about women in STEM. Computers have came a long way, and who gets to be part of this digital world depends on a lot of factors. Dr. Fahad Sultan and Genevieve is going to help us see the bigger picture.
Summer, when I was reading a book that's excellent, I highly recommend it. It's called Coders by Clive Thompson. And there's a chapter in there which talks about 4 generations of programmers. And it talks about how the first generation was entirely all women.
Generations of female programmers underlines a forgotten era where women were not just participants, but leaders in different fields of computing. This sets the stage for understanding how gender dynamics in computer science have shifted over time.
When sort of parents would buy computers, they would encourage their sons to use computers more as tools than their daughters.
Social norms have influenced access to technology from a young age, reinforcing gender stereotypes that have a long-term effects on career paths in technology.
When the 2008 financial recession sort of happened, Black students and Hispanic populations were affected a lot more than female students or male students who were white, who were not sort of from minority groups. That Black students, particularly in the South, their numbers in computer science are going down a lot compared to other areas in the United States.
We started in October of 2022, and when we started it, there were only less than 20 female majors in the computer science department, and that includes the IT major or data analytics minor. And since then, the number has risen to around 27 female majors. However, the overall number of computer science majors has grown so much that the actual percentage of females in the department has gone down. It went from a little over 30% of the majors in computer science were women to it is now around 25%.
The fewer women in computer science there are today, the fewer women in computer science there are going to be the next year. Because if women don't see themselves being represented in computer science conferences, in computer science sort of lectures, on the podium, then they feel like this is really not a space for them to inhabit because there is no role model for them to sort of look up to.
The overall total of computer science majors has increased, and I really think it's because there's been a lot more advocacy for the comp sci department.
Our collective efforts to boost female representation can lead to a richer, more diverse field.
Next up, Esmie is going to tell us about AI. I'm Disha Patel with Nightly News. On to you, Esmie.
Thanks, Disha. In today's academic landscape, technology is playing an increasingly important role. Among the most potent of these tools is artificial intelligence, which promises increased efficiency, accuracy, and learning. But with every new innovation, there is a shadow side, a side that we cannot ignore.
One of the most concerning aspects is the rise of AI-enabled cheating among students. With access to sophisticated algorithms and databases, the temptation to cut corners has never been greater. Gone are the days of traditional cheating methods. Today's students have access to a myriad of AI-powered tools that can write essays, solve complex equations, and even generate original research papers with just a few clicks. Would you be surprised to know that everything you just heard was AI generated? Softwares like ChatGPT have made it incredibly easy for students to use generative AI in assignments and papers, which has raised many questions about the ethics surrounding artificial integrity. Dr. Hick, who teaches in the philosophy department at Furman University, was one of the first people to take note of the use of AI in an academic setting.
I was grading papers at the end of the semester. Sometimes little red flags pop up, and you make a little note of them. You keep grading through, but sometimes they pile up enough that you have to stop and now turn into a detective and start digging further. And none of my usual methods for uncovering plagiarism said this was plagiarism, but it was just screaming at me. And that's when I got into the wonderful world of ChatGPT and figured out how it worked and learned about the detectors and played with it to see what it does and what it can't do. So I think as we're learning the new technology, we're learning what's acceptable. The problem, of course, is that, it's technology. It's just a tool. We can do all kinds of things with it. It can be a good thing. It can be a problematic thing.
Spencer Tate, a student at Furman University, is studying how AI could have the potential to be a positive tool for a student's academic performance.
I'm doing my econometrics project on how AI affects student performance, and 70 out of 72 of the people who use AI tools in my survey have a perception that using AI tools help them perform better. The students who do use AI tools ended up scoring higher than students who didn't. However, there's still some bias with that result, because there's a lot of motivation that was not accounted for, because most likely students, at least the assumption is that students who are using new technologies are probably a little bit more motivated than students who aren't using any new technologies.
Personally, I found AI to be a really helpful learning tool for me. When it's 2 a.m. the night before a chemistry exam and I'm really struggling with a practice problem, I found that I can just plug that question into ChatGPT and it'll provide me with a step-by-step walkthrough of how to solve the problem, and it really helps me understand and grasp concepts. Professor Sturgill in the communications department has already begun exploring ways that students can use AI within her digital storytelling classes.
So there's a couple different ways that I actually encourage my students to use AI, and one is for visuals that they can't get themselves. So they can go into Adobe Firefly and create a visual to go with an article that they're writing. For ChatGPT, what I encourage them is to, again, be transparent about how you're using it, right? Do not pass something off that ChatGPT or one of the other generators did based on a prompt that you did without being transparent.
But new developments in technology and artificial intelligence do not come without new problems.
We've discovered that there are some biases because it's culling the internet to bring in whatever, and so whatever's out there is whatever you may get. We've discovered there could be some misinformation. There could be some factual things that are wrong. So a student and I did a little experiment one afternoon, and we started typing in Adobe Firefly a prompt that would generate some visuals for us. We just said, give me a picture of a doctor in a white coat, right? And the first generation of that prompt was all male and all white doctors. So it wasn't until we started tweaking and asking it to give us more specifics. Give me a gender non-specific doctor, right? The more we put in, the more it gave us, but not until we started putting things in.
The more we continue to use these AI technologies, the more they will learn and develop, hopefully reducing biases. But what does the future of AI mean for academics, and how will it be used in classroom settings?
I think we're going to see a recalibration in why we assign things and what sort of things we assign. And I think either students are going to buy into this idea that I'm developing skills from this, I'm learning to work through problems, or we'll continue to think of this as ends-based, in which case, well, you'll use AI to write your papers and I'll use AI to grade your papers, and then why are any of us here?
AI is not going anywhere. So we have to figure out a way to work within the parameters of a liberal arts education. And I think the way to do that is probably to use it as an assistant, and as a tool in our toolbox, but not rely on it.
Artificial intelligence is not going away anytime soon. Instead, it's only going to become a bigger part of our lives, and only time will tell how AI will shape the future of academics. Next up, Lexia is getting ready to teach us all about drag culture.
Thanks, Esmie. Drag is about more than just what you see in the mirror. For many, it's self-expression and even an art form. For many, that is also being ripped away by laws that are being put in place. I went straight to the source to find out more.
She can account for all of the men in her past, where they are.
It's been incredible. It's absolutely one of the most life-changing things that I have had happen to me in my life. One of them being my sobriety. Only second to that is drag. And it is because I grew up as a shy, friendly kid, but it was through drag that I found out that I could be funny, confident, outgoing, charming, self-confident.
Offstage, delighted to be here is Clay Smith. They began doing drag as a dare. 23 years later, it has transformed into a full-time job full of life lessons.
To do drag means you just have to dress fabulously, entertain people, and raise money for a good cause. Sign me up.
I learned that everything that Delighted was doing on stage was Clay doing those things, and I got to learn these lessons and then apply them to my life out of drag, and truly I'm a better person because of Delighted to be here.
In recent years, many states are passing laws prohibiting and limiting drag. In Tennessee, drag queens cannot perform in public places. Despite that, Kelsey Ballerini had drag queens join her on stage at the CMT Awards.
Like the fans, the music, the lights. I mean, we're at home.
And the message. I was gonna say the magnitude of that moment.
In 2023, the state of South Carolina passed the Defense of Children's Innocence Act. The act states that any business that holds a drag show will be deemed sexually oriented and no minor can attend a drag show. This means events like drag story time at the library are no more. Ori McMullen is the event chair and coordinator for Furman Pride Alliance. They believe in the power that drag has and believes that drag has been misperceived by some.
I think that's a lot of what people who don't understand what drag is get a little bit, weirded out about, because it's not like a parody of femininity, it's a celebration of it.
An attorney out of Florida has been documenting sex offenders for the past year. Here's what they've come up with.
There have been 17 arrests or convictions of adults accused of having sex with children. Of those 17, 14 were pastors or youth pastors at Christian churches. One was the husband of a youth pastor. One, a police officer. None were drag queens.
At Furman University, the Furman Pride Alliance hosted an annual drag workshop and show on campus. Furman students are welcome to perform alongside professional queens as they explore the art for themselves.
The goal of doing drag is to let someone see that if a guy who's bald and who's, got the dad bod that I'm rocking at 41 years old can dress up and be that incredibly fabulous that you can do anything. And that if I had that visibility as a young gay child, as a young adult, as an adult, I didn't come out till late, that I was not alone and that I could see somebody else thriving. That's what it's about. It is about uplifting folks, not leading them down some terrible path, because the path is the yellow brick road and we're going to the Emerald City.
If you would like to catch a drag show anytime soon, you can follow Queen Delighted on Instagram for more information. For Nightly News, I'm Lexia Gianopolous.
Thanks, Lexia. If you would like to see next year's Furman drag show, you can follow the Furman Pride Alliance on Instagram for more details. Now, let's move over to sports, where you can highlight some amazing athletes. Four of our starting men's basketball players have hit the transfer portal. Joanna Lunsford found out more about this pivotal moment for their careers.
In the past 2 years, the NCAA transfer rules have become more lenient, making it easier for these athletes to use the transfer portal. That ease, a result of one of the more recent NCAA rule changes, is that players are now allowed to transfer without having to sit out an entire season.
Into the transfer portal just because it was just my last year coming up, and I just wanted to just be in an environment where I could just grow my game and just get to the next level, because that's ultimately what I want to do with my basketball career. Making new, friendships and connections with people I've just never met before, and just going to a place where, it's just different. I can, adapt in all situations.
With the growth of digital platforms, players are more aware of opportunities at other schools. This allows athletes to see how they might fit into these programs and how their talent and skills could be utilized differently. However, many times these athletes transfer seeking better development opportunities. They may believe that another program can offer them better coaching or competition to help them reach their full potential.
Honestly, I feel like it's always been my dream to play at the high major level against the best schools. Night in and night out, it's always been a goal for myself. And, with the year I had, I know I have a really good opportunity at doing that this year. So that's what mostly led to it. I think to be able to play in some high-level competition throughout the year, every night in and night out, like I said earlier, and then even just in the non-conference, be able to play in some tournaments that, the best of the best get invited to.
At the end of the day, these young athletes are making big life choices in hopes of setting up their best shot.
When the season ended, just like a couple weeks after the season ended, I just felt like it was just what's best for me and just what's best for my future.
Honestly, I feel like I noticed it pretty late and decided that's what I wanted to do. But I'd probably say, a couple weeks after the season is when I had a long talk with my parents and my family, and we all decided that it was best for me to go in the portal.
The combination of evolving NCAA rules and individual aspirations contributes to more than 1,000 college basketball players entering the transfer portal since it opened in March.
That's your son! That's your son! While some basketball players are leaving, many of our football players are deciding to return for a fifth year. Micah Robinson looks into the turnover on that team.
Every year athletes graduate, so the makeup of the team playing on this field changes. But with the transfer portal, it's making things a little bit more interesting.
In the world of college football, the decision to stay for a fifth year isn't always an easy one. What drove senior players at Furman University to remain on the team wasn't just about the game, but about something much deeper.
I did not have a lot of offers coming out of high school, so the love and, welcoming that Furman showed me, it beat everybody else. I didn't want to put my career in somebody else's hands. I'd rather stay here, and, the family aspect of Furman, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to get anywhere else.
Sure, there were probably other opportunities out there, but these seniors express how none of those compared to what they have here and what they've given to this program. Their sense of belonging, the sense of pride, It's just something that can't be given up. Fifth-year senior E.J. Wilson expresses how he was able to make his decision.
Man, and just team culture, it's a winning culture around here, especially the past few years. What we've got going on, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I've got the chance to play in a few games, but I think it's time to step up and be a full-time guy. And, we just got a great group of guys around here, and I wasn't ready for real life yet. I miss all my buddies. I had to come back.
The fifth-year seniors weren't the only ones that decided to come back to Furman. Newly hired coach and Furman alumni Callie Chiswick shares his thoughts on why he decided to start his coaching career at Furman after ending his college career this past season.
So right after I graduated, I knew I wanted to do something involving football, and it's kind of all I know. I've been here played here for 4.5 years.
Underwood fakes the handoff, throws it to the end zone, and it's intercepted by Furman. Intercepted by Callie Chiswick.
Love all the teammates. Met some great friends that, you wouldn't get opportunities to meet at other places. Guys from all different type of backgrounds, areas, ethnicities, the whole deal. And I really wanted to be around, for my first year of coaching, around people who I knew and I trusted, and who I knew would treat me the right way and would make work fun, right? Like I come to work every day and it doesn't feel like work.
Callie Chiswick is also the son of former Auburn coach Gene Chiswick. Callie has loved Furman since the day he had stepped foot on campus. The way he is treated does not go unnoticed. He wakes up every day with a smile on his face, knowing he is going into an environment that he not only loves, but that loves him as well.
I love being around the guys still. I love being around the coaches. And everyone's treated me awesomely. And that was a big reason of when I graduated. That was a big reason of why I wanted to stay, because I kind of anticipated it being like this, and it's everything I've thought it would be and everything I kind of dreamed of it being. So,
zooming out, Furman just won their first outright SoCon championship since 1990, mostly because of the fifth-year seniors that decided to stay.
All the guys on the team know that we're grateful for the SoCon championship, but that's not the only thing we wanted to get out of last year. Aim back to get one more SoCon ring and finally get that natty.
Next season, we hope the Dens can put another number up on the wall.
I see these guys as a family. Like, they're not teammates. I go to war for these boys any day. The work that, we do in the dark, nobody sees, but those are my boys, I die for every single one of them.
In the end, these senior players chose to stay for their fifth year, not because it was the easy choice, but because it was the right choice for them. Speaking of elite athletes, Blythe Novick looks into what it takes for international athletes to come play at Furman.
DiMatteo is a long-standing household name overseas, but Demi DiMatteo is building a name here in Greenville for himself. Let's hear how this international athlete has made Furman home.
In the UK, we don't have the opportunity of studying and playing sports while you're in school. So that's really one of the reasons why I came, and also because, I wanted to get a scholarship, I wanted to turn professional, and, America gave me that opportunity through college.
Demi has had a great golf career at Furman, but has also found an academic environment to thrive in.
You have to give credit to the administration here. They do a great job of getting these international students to be attracted to Furman. For most of us international students, we didn't even know what Furman was before we looked into it, or you got recruited to come here. So I think that's a big, aspect. They try and be on the world stage, and that's really important. And then secondly, I think, Furman competes on the world stage academically, and I think as an international student, that's really important. You want to go to a school, if you're going to leave your country, you want to go to a school which, does compete. And Furman does that. And lastly, I just think it's, the all-round experience at Furman. It's a very inclusive environment. And, you don't feel like you're on the outerior of, the culture here. You feel very included. And I think that's very important. And, that's one of the reasons why I also came.
Furman is 4,000 miles from home, but through relationships developed with teammates, coaches, and friends, Demi feels right at home. No matter how many miles away from London he is, Demi's family supports him from afar.
My dad was quite the athlete. He played professional soccer, as you guys call it here in the States. He grew up in Switzerland and played for some professional teams there until he was 21. And then moved to Italy and played for Lazio and started to play for the national team, which was a great accomplishment for someone who, grew up in Switzerland and his parents were Italian. And he then decided to go to Chelsea in London in the UK because, you know, it was a great move for him in his career and it was a very pivotal move. And so he moved there when he was 26. And then unfortunately, when he was 32, he had to retire because he had a very serious injury. He broke his leg and he had to stop his career. But after a short stint of retirement, he decided to get into coaching and getting his coaching badges. And then when he was 38, he got back into football and started coaching for a team in the 3rd division in the UK. And then started slowly building up his career in coaching and, you know, ended up winning the Champions League, which is the biggest honor you can win as a coach.
Not only is Mr. Di Matteo his dad, but his mentor, giving him a competitive edge in all aspects of life.
I was always surrounded by people who had been very successful in a sport, football. And, you know, that really pushed me to be successful in whatever sport I really enjoyed, and that was golf for me. And, you know, having someone as my dad who's, you know, experienced playing at the top level of a sport, you know, really helped me when I was playing in some competitions, and just speaking to him and getting his advice on what he would have done in that situation and so on. And then also, you know, you have that little bit of, you know, you want to be that person in the family also who's successful like your dad. And so, you know, you have that little voice in the back of your head that tells you, you know, work harder, keep pushing yourself, because, you know, you want to be as successful as your parents or even more successful, which can be quite hard when your dad was a professional athlete and an accomplished professional athlete.
Demi lives by this, pushing himself each day to be the best player he can be. But as the product of a soccer legend, Demi is frequently asked, why not soccer?
I found myself being a better golfer than a football player. And when I was 13, 14, I had to make a decision, you know, because football and golf were taking up so much time. And golf, you know, I was better at the time. So I decided to pursue golf more and spend more time. And, you know, slowly, you know, year by year, that took up a lot more time. And football just became in the back burner and I stopped playing.
I spoke to his teammate Will Moreland to hear what Demi brings to the team.
Demi's such an awesome teammate because he's charismatic. He always lights up the room.
Demi graduates in May and plans on pursuing a career in banking back in London. Speaking of incredible international athletes, our own Ella Harrison has the scoop on another.
Thanks, Blythe. We have our very own international athlete right here at Furman. Her story is one of strength and resilience.
I feel it in my blood that like I was born to fight.
Taya, it's the kick in the air. Kwan, it's the punch. And Do is away, the way of the kick and the punch.
Anastasia Savchenko is a 9-time Ukrainian national champion, European champion, and 5-time World Cup winner in Taekwondo. But if not for her little brother, Savchenko would never have been introduced to the sport.
So he went to the club first, but he was very young and my parents asked me to look after him. After like a few practices, I liked it so much I stayed for 10 years.
Back home in Ukraine, Savchenko perfected the art of Taekwondo, spending up to 3 hours a day, 6 days a week, practicing her punches, kicks, sparring, and patterns.
At 13, I won European Championship in patterns. So after that, I worked more on them. I love to fight, but just because it's martial arts, I also love this part of Taekwondo because it's just pretty.
Savchenko also appreciates the beauty of musical art after spending 8 years at music school in Ukraine. She believes that the focus and composure she learned from her studies and piano performance translates to Taekwondo.
I believe on the competition day, it's more about your mental preparation than your physical preparation. It's very easy to get overwhelmed and get nervous. In the morning, I usually meditated and stuff, just to get in this headspace.
But nothing could have prepared Savchenko for Russian forces to invade her home country in February 2022. In April of that same year, her family fled Ukraine.
I was I didn't move here because I wanted to. It's just because I was kind of forced to, so.
Among many other changes, Savchenko had to find a new gym here in the U.S. Enter Joe Skoda and Skoda Karate Academy. Their values of hard work, discipline, and never giving up aligned with Savchenko.
Her main strength is her mind is strong, and she's hungry for the learning of the martial arts. And because she's such an intelligent person, she picks it up really quick and learns it.
Taekwondo isn't as popular in South Carolina, So Savchenko began learning a similar form of mixed martial arts, Tang Soo Do.
Just the differences in how they do their stances, how they do their forms, and every style has its different forms. And she's adapted very well to it because of the similarities.
Although she is learning Tang Soo Do, nothing could defeat the fighting spirit in Savchenko. She's learned from her home country to never stop fighting until the fight is done.
She hits hard. She's not afraid to take a hit. And she's aggressive. I mean, she knows how to fight, and she doesn't back down when she's confronted. A couple of my grandsons have fought with her. My son has fought with her, and people don't like to fight with them.
Savchenko feels that her years of training in Taekwondo help her deal with the recent changes in her life.
It made me very, very resilient. So like when something is not working, like I'm not just giving up, I'm pushing forward until I get it.
Her country's fight for freedom has instilled a new sense of confidence and motivation for Savchenko in her sport.
And overall, like Ukrainian nation is like a nation of fighters because we always had to fight for our freedom and fight to be independent. So I feel like I consider myself as a big patriot, especially because I was representing my country for so many years and I was always performing under my flag.
Anastasia's coach plans to continue training with her and hopes that she will compete with their academy in upcoming competitions. We have another outstanding athlete here on campus competing in a unique sport at a high level. Ryan Lamb has the story.
For years, horses have competed in countless events such as racing or show jumping, to name a few. What often is overlooked is the time spent between these horses and their trainers. Most of the time, these trainers spend countless hours training, riding, and maintaining these horses in order for them to be able to compete at the best of their ability. One student here at Furman has dedicated nearly her entire life to doing so.
Blythe Novick, a junior here at Furman, has been training, selling, and competing with horses since the age of 7. Currently, she trains and competes in show jumping, which is a form of an equestrian sport.
I started riding when I was about 7 years old, which is actually in the sport kind of late. I'd always loved playing with the little toy horses. I begged to go to pony camp, and my parents signed me up for a couple weeks of a local pony camp, not thinking that I was gonna end up pursuing it, and I fell in love with it.
Blythe continued to grow that love, finding a passion in not just riding, but training these horses for competition.
I started training ponies pretty early on. I think I had some trickier ponies that my parents got me when I was younger, and I had to find a way to be competitive, and with that I had to be patient and figure out their needs and what I can do as a rider and on the ground to make them comfortable.
As she got older, Blythe gained a reputation around the horse community for her skills.
And then I think the cycle kind of progressed. Once I grew in credibility with that, more people would send me ponies to develop for them. They ended up going on to win at big competitions. So I think through that, I built my resume and the pony. So ever since then, I did it up through ponies and to horses.
This level of trust between trainers and horses takes countless hours of work. While she is here at Furman now, I was curious to see how she balances her school, social, and work life.
Balancing academics and riding has always been something I've dealt with through my life. In high school, I would go to school for part of the year and then the other half of the year travel and ride and do my work on my own. And when I got to college, I started working for a barn in North Carolina. And then I think my first year went by really quickly, and I realized that I'll always have the horses, but I won't always have school.
With school comes friends and peers, many of which struggle to understand why Blythe has to spend so much time with these horses.
I think at times it's been a little bit difficult for my peers to understand, why riding takes up so much of my time. I think a lot of people think of the horses as, you just get on and kind of go around, and it's not that at all. These are 1,500-pound animals jumping 6 feet fences, and there's so much that goes into the training and care of the horses to be able to have them.
We hear coaches and teachers always tell us the time you spend practicing directly correlates to the results. For Blythe and her horse, this ranged true.
Also for you to be diligent enough and have the training to navigate around courses like that. It's definitely a partnership between horse and rider, and like any other sport, the time you put in is what you get out. So there's been a lot of time that I've had to put in the saddle to get the results and, you know, feel comfortable in my ability to take care of these animals.
Training and working with these horses like Blythe does is a dream for many. For her, it's much more than that. Her love and appreciation really shines through to all who witness. In her young and already successful career, one can only wonder what she's going to accomplish in the future. Our next story is about a student athlete here at Furman University who suffered a major knee injury. Alex Maier has the story.
Inside 5. Clemmer had that pass deflected. It is picked off. Intercepted.
It's crazy just how fast things can change in the blink of an eye. Just the day before, I was talking with my coaches about the role I'd be filling in the fall, how much I was going to be playing, and how important I was to the team. All of that suddenly changed during a spring practice on February 24th.
The pop that happened was heard all the way from the sideline. I had seriously messed up my knee. All I could really think about was how bad my knee hurt.
I just remember him calling me, crying, and I was immediately worried. He said he hurt his knee and wasn't sure he was going to be okay.
I went to see the knee specialist at Piedmont Orthopedics in Greenville a couple days later, and the news he gave me was devastating. I had torn my ACL, MCL, and meniscus. I felt sick. I wasn't sure what to think. I wasn't sure if I was even going to ever be able to play football again. This game meant everything to me since I was a little boy, and the thought of it being taken away from me made me sick to my stomach.
Alex suffered a pretty significant knee injury on the field. He was in practice making a play on the outside, plant and twisted, and then got pushed kind of in the run of play. And with that plant and twist mechanism, we know that certain injuries are in play. And then, you know, as the play football continues, he kind of got pushed over, which, you know, kind of intensifies everything. So unfortunately, in the play where Alex was hurt, he did suffer a ACL injury as well as an MCL sprain, a medial collateral ligament sprain, which is on the inside of your knee. He also suffered a torn meniscus where, you know, kind of the shock absorption cushion in between the femur and the tibia. And then also as a result of the MCL injury, sustained a medial patellofemoral ligament injury, which kind of stabilizes the patella in the groove. And that was kind of into that motion that you went through with the injury is what caused that.
I had to get surgery to repair my knee and would miss the season. I had some time before my surgery though, and spring break was next week, so I decided to take a trip to the Florida Keys with my family. I needed some happiness in my life after everything that just happened, and I really enjoyed the trip a lot. Once I got back to Greenville, it was time for surgery. I was extremely nervous. I wasn't sure what to expect as I'd never had surgery before. About to head into surgery, fix up this ACL, MCL, meniscus. Hopefully it goes well. I'm a little bit nervous, but this is the start of recovery right here. When I woke up, let's just say I wasn't all the way there.
Made it out.
How you feeling?
Feeling like a million bucks.
Can you move your arms?
Once I came back to my normal self, I knew that the recovery process started now. I began physical therapy at St. Francis Therapy Center here on Furman's campus only 3 days after surgery. My therapist Rob kind of broke down the plan to me on how we were going to move forward.
Coming along well, quad's getting stronger, it's starting to move better. So the goal next couple weeks is kind of progressing some weight bearing, some strengthening once the doctor clears the weight bearing portion of it. And then we've got some parameters over the next couple months to get him back where he can start running again, getting range of motion close to the other side, no pain, swelling, getting the strength about 70-75% the other leg. Those things we start to progress kind of running, and then once we hit some more milestones, we can kind of progress more of the sport specific jumping, cutting, change of direction things.
The pain I experienced in the days after surgery really wore on me, and my mental state was taking a toll. As time went on, I began finding happiness in the little things like riding my golf cart around Furman's lake, playing video games with my friends, and hanging out with family. America! This process has been hard, but there were so many things to be grateful for. I used my teammate Bryce Stanfield as motivation. He tragically passed away this year during an on-the-field workout. He was one of the hardest working people I knew, and it really made me strive to attack the obstacles that were coming my way. Although there's a lot of work to be done, I won't stop till I'm back playing ball. This story isn't over yet. I'm Alex Maier for Nightly News. Back to you, Cole.
Thanks, Alex. Here's hoping you have a full recovery by the fall. That does it for this special edition of the Nightly News. Have a good night, everyone.